I'm super psyched about. It's called Taste and See, as you can see on our lovely slide. It's based on Psalm 34:8, and which we're gonna see in just a minute. But and it's gonna be a 3-week series. We're gonna do 2 message weeks. And Olivia, she's not here today. She wishes she could be, but she's gonna be teaching next week and kind of breaking down the verse. Today, I'm more gonna be sharing like how the verse has really changed me and how it applies to my life. Could you pull up that verse there, Kennedy? I won't say hey, Kennedy.
Hey, Kennedy.
She's doing good. So, Psalm 34:8 says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." And that's a super pretty verse. That's one of the verses you would use as your screensaver, and I understand that. But it just really hit me really hard. I read it this weekend, and oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Just tasting and seeing that the Lord is good. That's one of the craziest concepts, and it's been a super powerful concept in my life. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents are Christians, and they, I was in church in the womb. That's just where I came from. But I didn't really understand that God died for me. God was more of a checklist item for me for a long time. It was very okay, I'm gonna go to church, and I might glance at my Bible every once in a while, and there we go. There's my checklist. I'm done. Right now I can do whatever I want. And I was very three-faced, not even two-faced. So I was a very different person at church, at school, and at home. At church, I was the kid with all the answers. I knew my stuff. I was in Bible drill. I was I got all the gold stickers, guys. I was there. And at home, I tended to hole up in my room. I loved my family, but I was always so exhausted from putting on a face for everyone else that I didn't really want to talk to my family. And at school, I was the it girl. I was so excited. I needed everyone to like me to feel validated with myself. And I really cared a lot about what everyone thought of me. I wanted everyone to be okay with me when there was tension in my life. I had a big issue with that. And just even in little decisions, that was a big thing for me. And it caused me to feel really empty. I didn't have anything filling that hole in my life other than myself and other people's opinions of me, and that's a pretty draining resource because it's not a resource at all, and it left me feeling really empty. So early on in life, I struggled a lot with depression and anxiety, really seriously, and my head was just a very dark place for me to be. That caused me to always want to be busy. Who are my busy people in here? My people who really like to be busy, or you're just coincident? Yeah. So I have always liked being busy from way early on because it kept me from having to sit with myself and actually confront myself, and I did not like that. I was not about sitting down with myself and figuring out what was actually wrong, not about that life. So the Lord really convicted me and showed me. Does anyone know the song Words by Hawk Nelson? Yeah, maybe, possibly. Yeah. So what the song says, the chorus of the song says, "Words can build you up, words can break you down, start a fire in your heart or put it out." And that was the song I heard the night before I was saved. And that was a super powerful song to me because it made me realize that even if I didn't think that anything I did mattered or I mattered at all, my words mattered to other people. And regardless of whether I wanted to or not, I was going to have an impact on this world, regardless of how long I thought I was going to be here. And that really set the stage for, there's this event at my church called Uprising. It's pretty rad. And it's a weekend where you kind of get away from your phone, you get away from your stuff, and you go and you listen to people teach and you have fun with your friends and stuff like that. And the speaker was he wasn't demeaning. I was still young, and he wasn't demeaning, and he wasn't talking above me. I actually understood what he was saying. And he was talking about how the God of the universe created you, chose you, and loved you. And I've never gotten over that because I didn't know. I didn't know that someone loved me. I had great parents. I didn't have a rough home situation or anything like that, but I didn't know that someone loved me. And I didn't know that someone spent time on me and cared about me and cared enough to say, I want that one. I didn't know that I was held in the hands of the creator of the universe. And I had heard it all my life. I didn't know. And it rocked my world. It rocked my world to understand I didn't have to have everyone like me. And I didn't have to be who everyone needed me to be. I didn't always have to be the person who was okay. It rocked my world that that the Lord, Psalm 139 says you were knitted together in your mother's womb. Like, what? Like, you're telling me the God of the universe, who's bigger than freaking Mount Everest, like he's bigger than the earth, sat down and was like, oh, let me knit together my creation. And not only that, but the God of the universe right now, we tend to think creation stopped when the earth was created. But the God of the universe right now holds the earth in his hands and is breathing life into you. He didn't just breathe life into you, he is your sustainer permanently. Like, that's insane. At any time, he could just be like, I don't want to do this, but that's not his character, that's not who God is. I've never gotten over that. That's why I do Campus Connect. That's why I'm a believer, because I can't get over that someone looked at me when I didn't like myself, when I hated everything about me, looked at me and said, I love you, and I care about you, and I want you. And that just rocked my world. That was mind-blowing. And so I decided to have a relationship with the Lord and start actually not just like reading my Bible and knowing the answers, but figuring out what the Bible meant to me, what the Bible was supposed to mean for my life. And that's tasting and seeing. That was the first time I tasted and saw that the Lord was good. That the Lord was good. Yeah, a bunch of crappy stuff had happened in my life at that point and continued to happen. But I had a peace about it, and I knew that God had a plan for it. And that's not to say I haven't struggled since. Trust me, life is always a roller coaster. Since I've been in high school, I still like struggle with anxiety. That's still a big part of my life. But the Lord has really revealed to me that He has a purpose and a plan. I have health issues, and He's really revealed to me He has a purpose and a plan. And it's been amazing how I've gotten to use the things that I've been through and use the things that like I struggle with and fight on a daily basis, and gotten to minister to people like y'all, and minister to other people and just tell them like, hey, God has a plan. And I get to constantly rely on the Lord more and more, and that's such a beautiful thing. And trust me, I don't have it figured out. This is an honest story about my life. And the cool thing about telling your story with the Lord is no one can take that away from you. No one can look at me and be like, yeah, that didn't happen. Like, that just didn't happen. None of that happened. No one can look at me and say that because I was there. Like, I know how my life went. I know I was there. And that's the coolest thing about God. He's a personal God. Like, not only did at one point in time, he was like, oh, yeah, I love that one. Like, no, he knows you by name. He knows you enough to where he formed you, is sustaining you, created you, and loves you, and knows you by name. And I wish I could just, like, shake everybody and be like, Jesus loves you, but I can't. And no one could have done that to me before I knew the Lord. But, like, I pray that all of y'all come to that understanding that you are loved. Like, regardless of what that person said, regardless of what you said to yourself, because I know sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. And I know your head can be a scary place sometimes. But sometimes just sitting down and saying, like, Lord, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. Because we all reach our point to where we can't do it. And you realize that we can't do it on our own. And we're not supposed to. Like, God is a God who sits down. And that's the second part of this verse. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Like, in Psalms, which is in the Old Testament, before Jesus came to the earth, like, they were already writing, I think this was a song written by David. He was already writing, like, take refuge in the Lord. They already had it rough back then. Like, they already knew that things were going to be messed up. Like Jesus knew in the Bible, he knew that things were going to happen. Like, he knew that sin had entered the world, and he knew things were going to happen, and life was going to be rough. And God is the only steady thing in your life, and that's a scary, big thing to grasp. But friends are going to let you down every once in a while. Your parents are going to let you down every once in a while. You're going to let yourself down every once in a while. But God, he's not. He's a steady rock, and he's a steady ground that you can stand on. And yeah, waves are going to crash, but he's the only thing you can take refuge in, because he cares about you eternally, inevitably. He loves you. And that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. So Carson's going to come close for us in a minute, and then we're probably going to have time to break into prayer groups. But I would love to answer any questions y'all have. That was like a brief synopsis of my story. But if y'all have any questions, please don't hesitate to come up to me. I'm not going to ask them here. Even if there's super personal questions, I'm not going to act weird about it. But I just wanted to share my story with y'all, because I know that life is crazy. And I know that high school, it's tough. Like, it can suck sometimes. And I promise you that there's a Redeemer and a rock who loves you and who spent time on you and who wants to have a personal relationship with you and is constantly pursuing you. Like, Jesus loves y'all. And it's a cute little song and a cute little phrase that you hear. We live in the Bible Belt. I know you've heard it, but I promise you there's a real God out there who loves you. And I'd love to talk to y'all more about that, but I'm going to pray for us.